They said China was the world's polluter. Now it's winning the green race for decades. China has been labeled with every name in the book. The global capital of smog, the coal-guzzling giant, or even the world's #1 climate wrecker. Images of Beijing's gray, choked skies became the poster child for a nation that grew at all costs, even sacrificing its own environment. But in the first quarter of 2025, something unthinkable happened. China officially hit its renewable energy target for electricity generation, 6 years ahead of its international commitments. While many developed nations are still tangled in red tape over offshore wind farm permits, China has been running hundreds of gigawatts of solar power from the Gobi Desert. While Washington debates EV battery subsidies, Beijing has built thousands of kilometers of ultra-high voltage transmission lines to move clean energy from west to east. And now, the country once seen as the global hub of pollution is teaching the world a lesson. With enough resolve, clean energy isn't a distant dream. It's a reality that can happen sooner than anyone imagined. How did China pull off such a dramatic turnaround? Is this just an environmental sprint or a strategic geopolitical play in a post-carbon era? Join Top 10 Discoveries Official as we uncover how China is redefining the planet's energy future. Surpassing goals is nothing new for China. But hitting renewable energy targets 6 years early, or electric vehicle goals a full decade ahead, is on another level. It's a global statement. Here are numbers that don't just stun. They force developed economies to ask, who's really leading in the green era? When China unveiled its green transportation strategy, it set an ambitious milestone. By 2035, at least 50% of new vehicles sold in the country would be electric or new energy vehicles, NEVs. At the time, many saw this as a long-shot goal, tough to achieve in 2 decades. But reality is proving otherwise. China isn't just meeting the target, it's crossing the finish line 10 years early. Reports indicate that 12 million electric vehicles are projected to be sold in China in 2024, a 20% jump from 2023. Meanwhile, sales of internal combustion engine, ICE, vehicles continue to slide, dipping below 11 million units, a 10% drop from the previous year. At this pace, EVs will surpass 50% market share in 2025, marking a historic turning point. China is emerging as a major contributor to 21st century energy transformation. But the story isn't just about numbers. What stands out is that China's EV ecosystem has matured enough to sustain this pace. Domestic brands like BYD, NIO, XPeng, and Geely are dominating the market with robust production capacity and integrated supply chains. The Chinese government has rolled out over 6 million public and private charging stations nationwide, creating an infrastructure network that dwarfs those in Western countries. Major cities like Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Beijing are steadily converting all public transit and taxis to electric. As of Q1 2024, EVs accounted for nearly 47% of new vehicle registrations, and that figure is climbing monthly. With this momentum, experts estimate that by 2030, China won't just hit 50% NEV market share, but could reach 70–80%, fully dominating the domestic green vehicle market and expanding globally. While many countries are still debating charging infrastructure, tax policies, and emission standards, China has quietly made EVs the norm, not the exception. Beyond transportation, if urbanization took centuries for Western nations, China has turned it into a strategic national sprint. In just a few decades, the country has achieved milestones that took Britain 120 years and the US 80 years to reach. From 1978 to 2000, China's urbanization rate soared from 17.9% to 39.1% in just 22 years. This transformation unfolded alongside the nation's economic reforms, shifting from a planned economy to a market-oriented socialist system. The pace didn't slow there. Projections show that by 2025, 70% of China's population, roughly 1 billion people, will live in urban areas, surpassing the US's current urbanization rate of around 68%. This isn't just a statistic. China's coordinated urbanization effort offers a unique development model, from building megacities like Shenzhen, Suzhou, and Chongqing, to developing synchronized networks of transportation, electricity, healthcare, and education for hundreds of millions moving from rural areas to cities. Take Shenzhen as a prime example. From a fishing village of under 60,000 people in 1980, it's set to surpass 20 million by 2025, becoming a top-tier tech hub in Asia. This boom has fueled a comprehensive ecosystem, where industries like construction, transportation, IT, and renewable energy grow together in an integrated smart city plus clean industry model. China was once a symbol of regional inequality, gleaming coastal cities starkly contrasted with impoverished mountain regions in Guizhou, Gansu, or Ningxia. But in less than a decade, the country has achieved what many developing nations still struggle with: eradicating absolute poverty on a scale of over 1 billion people. China's strategic goal was to build a moderately prosperous society, Xiaokang, by 2021, marking the Communist Party's centennial, and China adopted a data-driven, coordinated approach to accelerate progress. From 2013 to 2020, over 90 million rural residents were lifted out of poverty, not just through financial aid, but via a coordinated suite of measures. Over 524 billion CNY, about $77 billion USD, in direct support from 2016 to 2020, restructuring industries in over 800 impoverished counties, with investments in roads, telecom, healthcare, and education infrastructure, relocating tens of millions, from harsh living conditions to resettlement zones with access to markets, public services, and sustainable livelihoods, using big data and poverty scoring to track progress for individual households, a level of monitoring and measurement unmatched globally. While this goal wasn't achieved 6 years early, its scale and speed are staggering. The World Bank and United Nations have called it the fastest and most comprehensive poverty alleviation campaign in modern history. While many countries still debate how to define poverty, China has measured every person, every village, and delivered verifiable change. The lesson here isn't just about money. It's about political commitment, national coordination, and treating poverty alleviation as a priority on par with national security. In a world grappling with deepening inequality, China's experience offers a case study on how national coordination can accelerate development goals. Beyond social metrics like urbanization or poverty reduction, China has also made stunning strides in economics, both traditional and modern, hitting targets at a pace that leaves developed nations in awe. Back in 2016, China reached a GDP of $10.73 trillion, 4 years ahead of its 2020 target set in its medium-term development plan. This doesn't just reflect economic scale, but showcases the ability to coordinate production, exports, and domestic consumption in the world's most populous market. What's even more striking is how China has shifted its strategy from being the world's factory to a digital and high-tech economy. Since the mid-2010s, the country has rolled out sweeping national policies, such as Made in China 2025, pushing self-reliance in high-tech fields like semiconductors, industrial robotics, AI, and 5G. National Innovation-Driven Development Strategy 2016-2020, a nationwide plan to build data infrastructure, advance AI, and standardize IT systems. Strong support for leading firms like Huawei, Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent, and ByteDance to create an independent AI and cloud computing ecosystem. While no hard data proves China hit digitalization goals X years early, the reality is clear. By 2024, China led the world in AI patent filings, digital service users, and AI integration into daily life and production. While developed nations debate how to regulate AI, China has smart city networks spanning the country, autonomous vehicles in real-world use, and a cashless economy powered entirely by domestic apps. This isn't just a race for speed, it's about vision and execution, where China isn't just catching up, but setting global standards for economic development in the digital age. As international discussions continue on climate goals, China has quietly built a multi-layered system integrating technology, finance, and regional collaboration to deliver an energy feat the world can't ignore. Tier 1. Supergrid infrastructure. Transcontinental clean power. China doesn't just produce the most renewable energy globally. It's the first country able to distribute it nationwide without burning a drop of oil. The core is a near unreplicable system, an ultra-high voltage UHV transmission network stretching 48,000 kilometers, equivalent to circling the equator. This grid directly connects the northwest deserts, home to the planet's highest solar radiation and ideal wind speeds, to power-hungry economic hubs like Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou. What's notable? China's UHV grid doesn't carry gas or coal, but delivers solar and wind energy straight from production to consumption with just 5% transmission loss, lower than any traditional Western grid. Several stand out. UHV lines clearly showcase China's scale and ambition. The Changji-Guquan line, stretching 3,293 kilometers with a transmission capacity of up to 12 GW, was completed in 2019 and is currently one of the world's highest voltage lines. The Gansu-Zhejiang line, spanning 2,290 kilometers, is slated for completion in 2024 with an 8 GW capacity, serving as an energy bridge between the western deserts and coastal industrial hubs. Also in this group, the Xinjiang-Chongqing line is being urgently completed, with a designed capacity of 10.2 GW over an equivalent distance of 2,290 kilometers, and is expected to begin operations in 2023. This system acts as the central artery for China's clean energy economy, funneling power from remote wind and solar farms to industrial zones and cities where hundreds of millions live and work. This is the physical backbone of Beijing's strategic slogan: generate power in the desert, consume it in the cities. This technology, once imagined in sci-fi, is now being implemented at large scale. Tier 2. Energy industrial zones, turning the Gobi Desert into a power plant. While Western nations debate adding a few solar farms, China is a decade ahead. They've industrialized entire deserts. From the Gobi to Inner Mongolia, from Gansu to Xinjiang, integrated energy industrial zones are rising like energy cities, not just producing power, but shaping the future. At the heart is the Gobi Desert megabase, a sprawling project across 10 provinces aiming for $455 GW by 2030, equivalent to Europe's entire current wind and solar capacity combined. Meanwhile, the Tengger Desert Solar Park, dubbed the Great Wall of Solar, hit 13 GW in 2023, making it one of the planet's largest renewable energy parks. What sets this strategy apart isn't just power. Areas once deemed wastelands are becoming hubs of a closed-loop industrial ecosystem, producing solar panels and energy modules on site, cutting logistics costs and boosting localization, installing wind turbines and energy storage systems, creating a complete supply chain independent of foreign tech, generating millions of new jobs, especially in sparsely populated regions where industry rarely ventured before. Developing supporting industries like logistics, transport, maintenance, and AI-driven energy management. China has turned deserts, once just sand and wind, into strategic assets, a diplomatic energy machine few nations can rival. And they didn't build it for tourism. They built it to sell power, tech, and influence. Tier 3. Green finance and domestic tech, accelerating with money and innovation if infrastructure is the conduit and deserts are the source. The final tier of China's strategy is the accelerator. Finance and technology. Beijing knows clean energy isn't truly green if it relies on foreign capital or imported tech. By 2023, China's green finance market hit $2.3 trillion, the world's largest. Key figures include green credit totaling about $3.2 trillion or 10% of the total loan portfolio. Climate bonds issued in 2023 reached $131 billion, with outstanding values estimated at $200 through $300 billion. Major banks, from the China Development Bank to policy banks, have pledged to raise green credit assets to 30% by 2030. This means nearly a third of every loan dollar will flow into wind, solar, energy storage, or carbon reduction projects. Beyond funding, China offers interest rate incentives, tax breaks, and dedicated green credit corridors for tech innovators. These aren't short-term grants, but a long-term, national-scale financial strategy. China doesn't just pump money, it owns the tech. Per the IEA, by 2023, China controlled over 60% of global renewable energy equipment production. For solar panel supply chains, That figure exceeds 75% across all stages: silicon refining, wafer production, cell manufacturing, and module assembly. For wind turbines and energy storage, localization exceeds 80%, freeing China from reliance on US or European tech. While some countries debate the IRA and green tax incentives, China has built a closed-loop ecosystem where every link, from tech to finance, is in its hands. With domestically developed alternatives in semiconductors, manufacturing, and finance, China is reducing its reliance on foreign platforms. This reflects a shift toward domestic-led innovation and resilience. Behind the solar panels and wind turbines isn't just a climate story. It's a new global energy order where China is increasingly influencing how energy ecosystems evolve globally. Pushing renewables doesn't just cut emissions, it's a tool to reduce reliance on fossil fuel imports. From 2010 to 2024, coal's share in China's electricity mix dropped from over 70% to about 50%. Replacing coal and gas are wind, solar, and hydropower, all funded, developed, and operated by China. With a UHV supergrid spanning tens of thousands of kilometers, China has slashed its need for Australian coal, Central Asian gas, and Middle Eastern oil, making clean energy a cornerstone of national security. China doesn't keep clean energy to itself. It exports tech and ecosystems, from solar modules to fully integrated solar plants. By 2024, China exported renewable energy equipment to over 70 countries, from Africa to Southeast Asia to Latin America. Companies like Longji, Jinko, Sungrow, and Trina Solar hold over 80% of the global solar panel market, per the IEA. Through the Rai Energy Corridor, China isn't just building railways or ports, it's expanding a clean energy belt from Central Asia to Europe and South Asia. Developing nations aren't just buying equipment. China is actively sharing its clean energy technologies and partnering with developing nations through long-term cooperation frameworks. While the US aims for 100% clean electricity by 2035, mired in congressional gridlock and unresolved technical hurdles, China has operated hundreds of gigawatts of clean capacity, built a supergrid to move power from deserts to megacities, perfected a domestic supply chain backed by the world's largest green finance market. While some nations are still designing long-term strategies, pilot programs in China are offering early case studies for global energy shifts. In an evolving global landscape, China is positioning energy as a new foundation of influence. China doesn't need to dominate Silicon Valley's upper echelons. It just needs the world to rely on the sunlight it harvests. This isn't environmental ambition, it's global energy diplomacy. While much of the world dreams of a green future, China has marched into the post-carbon era at a pace that jolts even developed economies. By 2040, China is projected to hit 80% clean energy generation, far surpassing the Paris Agreement's targets. If this happens, China won't just be the world's factory of the 20th century, but the global power station of the 21st century. Beyond its borders, China is building a transcontinental vision, the Asian Supergrid Initiative. Linking Xinjiang's solar, Mongolia's wind, and Russia's nuclear power to deliver electricity to Southeast Asia, South Asia, and potentially the Middle East. A growing regional network positions China as a key facilitator of cross-border energy flows. Different models are emerging. China's centralized approach offers a sharp contrast. The US has technology, capital, and leading innovators. But China's long-term planning model offers a contrast to more decentralized approaches. Elsewhere, lack of infrastructure investment may increase dependence on external supply chains, reliance on China's equipment, tech, and even solar power supply. China has just proven that you don't need to wait until 2050 to act. A coordinated national strategy can turn clean energy into a key pillar of international influence. What do you think of China's latest record? Which model will shape the future energy landscape, centralized or decentralized? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to Top 10 Discoveries Official to explore the biggest tech and geopolitical turning points shaping the world's future. We'll be back with more jaw-dropping discoveries, epic projects, and untold stories from across the globe. See you next time.